I'm Kelly Miller from Cairns O'Neill,
I am Robin Legasic. I am our Chief Transformation Officer at Cairns O'Neill.
a strategic media agency working in the Canadian marketplace.
We work with clients across different categories to develop media strategies, executions, insights, analytics, to really make sure that we are achieving their business outcomes.
Today on Canadians Create,
We will be talking about SickKids Foundation 150th birthday campaign that we launched this spring. It was a great partnership with our client SickKids Foundation and their creative agency FCB, bringing to market their 150th birthday messaging to solicit donations from people in Ontario.
SickKids is such an iconic brand in Canada and well known throughout the world. They're the #1 children's hospital worldwide, and they're such great partners of ours.
Welcome to Startwell for the Canadians Create podcast.
Thank you.
Awesome to have you guys on representing Cairns O'Neill.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah, my
thank you.
pleasure. If we can have you introduce yourselves, then I won't mess up what you do at Cairns O'Neill.
100%.
All right, I'll go first. My name's Robin Legasic, and I'm our Chief Transformation Officer at Cairns O'Neill. I've been at the organization for just over 6 years and started as a Managing Director of Digital to bring our digital practice together and grow it and make sure that we were poised to lead our clients in that space of digital media. Since then, I have grown in my role and grown in the organization what our digital practice is and does. So we focus on digital media, analytics, attribution, everything from execution to strategy and everything in between, and analytics, AI, all the fun things that you hear. Yeah.
The fun things. So lots changed in 6 years and it continues to.
Mm-hmm. And grown significantly.
So wait, sorry, you said your title is?
Chief Transformation Officer.
To transform what?
Our digital practice and our clients' digital. Yeah, it's working with clients because they have to think about the road ahead for them in MarTech and AdTech and what that looks like in terms of how they go to market and how they can leverage data points and all of those things. So, yeah.
Okay, we're going to come back to this transformation idea for sure.
Yeah, and I'm Kelly Miller. I'm a Managing Director at Cairns O'Neill, in charge of client services, as well as I lead our e-commerce pillar, which I would say has evolved a lot. I've been at Cairns O'Neill for 2 years, and I think, e-commerce in early days was really just some basic transactions of buying products online, and where we're heading is really we look at all of our clients right now, for the most part, as e-commerce clients because they have some sort of consumer journey online, and for the most part, no matter what your business, whether we're talking not-for-profit charities or right-to-consumer packaged goods, how the consumer acts and behaves online that equals a transaction, we're thinking of all of that as e-commerce, really.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because the path to transaction is so arduous and contextual and complicated and multifactorial.
Very. Yep.
Wow, that's exciting. I love it. I love it. Okay, let's paint the picture of what Cairns O'Neill is, just to give our audience a kind of a unique identifier of what you're great at. Because a couple of things you told me just downstairs at the espresso bar before we jumped on camera shocked me, or not shocked me, pleasantly surprised me. Specifically about this focus on media. You're not a creative agency. You're not making ads.
Yep.
You're getting them out to people and looking at strategy around engagement, right?
Yes.
So tell me more about that.
So we are a Canadian independent media agency, and what that means is that we are focused on strategy and bringing the message into the market to the right consumer. And we've been in operation for about 13 years and are, I would say, arguably the largest independent agency within Canada. We firmly believe in being an agent for our clients. And we say that because it is a point of difference. There's a lot of other agencies out there, media agencies, that do something that's called principle-based buying, which means that they have agreements with the media partners and they pre-buy inventory and then they repackage that up and sell it to clients. So what we do is different in the sense of everything that we do is unique and bespoke for our clients based on a process that we go through with them that develops an insight, creates a strategy, and we go to market with that strategy. We negotiate well, and it's all outcome based. So any business outcome that our client is looking to generate is what we work with them on.
See, I don't think most like lay people sitting outside of this industry understand that that would even be a reality. What you said your competitors do. They would think that everyone does what you do. Because it's obviously pretty, I can say, maybe you can't, that it's a pretty shit approach to doing things. To go out and buy a bunch of ad stock on different channels and then say, hey, we've got a cheap bulk buy discount, over on this channel to allocate, might mean that they need to dump it and they're not necessarily going to put a client, in the right channel.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we do really well is we're so closely connected to our clients and their business. So we take a really in-depth look and make media decisions for them that are the best for them, the best for their business. And we also, go through a process of insights and analysis to understand how we can connect with their consumers through the different channels, whether it's TV, radio, digital, print, all of those activations. How is that brand's message going to connect with a consumer in the best way possible, throughout those different mediums of advertising?
What's your guys' lens on the kind of like Canadian advertising landscape's capacity for strategic insight and that level of engagement with clients?
Historically, it's been the marketing teams and the creative teams that have taken a lead on that. We believe that as consumer behavior has evolved and as media channels have evolved, we are better poised to really take a lead in that space because we have access to so much data.
How?
And
fell off the back of a truck?
No. When you think about what a consumer does and how they engage with media, the media channels and the media partners that we work with, really they see where you are. They see what you're doing. They understand.
We're talking about like pixels tracking people
everything
all over the internet.
Yeah, exactly. All of that third-party tracking, second-party tracking. Even when you think about the broadcasters, a Bell Media, for example, set-top box information, all of that data, right? And so we can take that and aggregate it, and we look at it. We don't want to look at you as an individual and follow you because that's creepy, and that also,
you'd fall asleep.
Privacy law.
Yeah, you'd fall asleep.
But we can aggregate all of that information and that data, and we can start to understand and segment it and look at different consumer segments and customer segments, and then tie that also to client data.
Okay.
So we can start to get more specific around where our clients' ads are, what their consumers are doing. We have different capabilities through something called clean room technology, where we can start to marry different pieces of information together.
That's some proprietary stuff, or?
No, clean room technology is something that's available and in the marketing landscape.
Okay.
But it's a privacy safe way to start to aggregate and marry different data points together. And the great thing about that, as you talk about, is that's where you can start to really uncover good insights, and start to become really strategic in your approach and how you're looking at things.
Yeah, this is something that Yang Han was talking about from StackAdapt on stage here for Tech for Canada this summer, a conference that we host that's a tentpole annual conference, looking at like really the value of scale ups and where they're able to kind of like innovate, and StackAdapt was speaking to this idea of being able to understand who fits into your pipeline, like is all important, right? And even in anonymized data or identities, you don't need to know nuances to the person's character, but their role and identity as a purchaser and someone who conducts commerce is kind of all important when it comes to like placing them within the context of where do they want to buy and when. And that idea today of context being, again, coming back to this, like the cumbersome nature of like trying to find the person that wants to buy at the right time in the right place. You know, what does that look like today? Where are we with like finding people online, and where are they?
Well, I think, the biggest advancement we're seeing is with this data technology and the way that we can use it. And to add on to what Robin was talking about, so then we can look at this data, and for brands, you get a really great idea of, hey, these are the people that are actually purchasing your products and are interested and engaged with the ads that you're putting out there. And then you're able to identify, brands really understand, who their core consumer is. And then us as advertisers can understand that info, build bigger audiences based on that, have that understanding, and be able to target them with the right ads at the right time for them.
Yeah.
We've built a proprietary planning system that we call Awaken. And
nice title.
Thanks. We, again, start with the consumer in mind. And so we do a lot of research, and we mine through a lot of different data points to try to truly understand the consumer that we're trying to reach from different dimensions, because everybody has kind of a different persona depending on where they are in their life and what they're doing. So we look at them in their physical world.
Yeah.
We look at them.
So geolocational data, you mean?
That could be part of it.
Okay.
But where they are, what they're doing, what are they physically capable of? Where are they?
Do they like going in store to shop?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we also want to look at them in their digital life, because your digital persona may be different than your physical. So where are you online? What are you doing? What's your behavioral attributes look like? Various, sentiments, those types of things. And then also emotional, because how you feel, what you think, how do you feel about the brand? How do you feel about the category? What is that emotional undertone? All of those things come together.
Right.
And then we look and mine through that to really dig into what's the overarching insight for that consumer. And then that leads into a strategy.
Okay.
And that's how we can then start to build out a really strong channel plan, execution that ties back to that, making sure that we're hitting you in the right stage of your physical, digital, and emotional space.
Okay, you've laid this up. So now I'm really interested to see how you explain this case, because we're going to be talking about your work with SickKids, right?
Yep.
And for me, that's really interesting, because we're not talking about an average consumer through this story, right? We're not talking about trying to prompt someone to buy some shoes. So emotions come into the prompt of their want to open wallets and tie themselves to a cause. Let's lay it up a little bit for our audience. If you can please explain who SickKids is, what is SickKids, and the relevance of our healthcare industry in Canada, and then more specifically in the urban topography of Toronto.
Absolutely. So we became SickKids Foundation media agency just over 2 years ago now.
Okay. When you came on the scene.
Exactly.
Okay.
They were my first new client when I came on. In Toronto, they're so iconic, SickKids Hospital. And if, we take things back a little bit, the Versus campaign in 2015 that came out is so iconic. Most people in Toronto remember that. It's the kids, fighting, putting up that fight. And it was the first time a charity really made a bold brand position. And instead of, some of the sad messages that had been out there in terms of charity, and it's really about, there's a lot of doom and gloom out there. This was about kids fighting and being heroes and being so inspirational. And it's still, such a recognizable brand from that Versus campaign. And that was in 2015. And, they evolved and they used Versus for many, many years. And
are they still or no?
Well, so this year was SickKids' 150th birthday.
Oh, wow.
They were also recently named the #1 children's hospital in the world. And
In the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's huge. And so we don't have many 150th birthday establishments in Canada, in Toronto.
We just literally celebrated the Canadian 150th a few years ago.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
wow.
So they opened their doors 150 years ago. And, we worked really closely with their creative agency, collaboratively, and SickKids Hospital. Their creative agency is FCB. To really realize this is a moment in time to celebrate and, to be able to come back with SickKids in a really renewed brand positioning and grab attention of people with a message of donating. The hospital needs donations. That has to be continually fueled to keep it as strong, keep it in that number one position, right? So we start off this campaign really looking at it as almost like a brand relaunch, but we wanted it to tie back to that Versus message that everybody remembered, everybody was connected to, and felt so passionate and powerful about. To see those kids fighting, you felt it really had that emotional impact on everybody that saw it.
So just to lay it out for the audience, that what you're talking about is Versus. Am I right in saying that it was a kind of created an iconography of showing children who are battling with particular health predicaments, maybe fighting for their lives or otherwise as champions, and that was the iconography. It was positioning them as like fighters, champions in the
superheroes,
fight.
And
okay, so
giving them a real strong
and
position,
supporting the hospital meant supporting the kids to be able to win,
continue that battle.
Exactly, yeah. So we flipped to 150 and going into market this year for the 150th birthday. And it was a chance to renew that message, but present it in a really revived and different way. So, there was this great insight around birthdays are such a human connection. Everyone has one. Everyone celebrates birthdays. And so how to tie that in with SickKids, and the campaign really revolved around these children. They're back, they're fighting. But the message here is every kid deserves another birthday. And really representing that in such a powerful way related to the hospital's 150th birthday. So, there's these strong images, and they're real patients from SickKids. And, they're holding up giant candles with their next birthday on. And we took that human insight about celebrating birthdays and the hospital celebrating birthdays and really used that as a foundation of our media strategy. So it's how to connect people that have already some emotions, some tie-ins to birthdays, tying it into the hospital's birthday and making it really relevant and emotionally impacting by tying it into the kids, help them fight for another birthday. Okay. So with that, we came into the market with a 2-layer campaign is how we looked at it. We called it Inspire and Act. So in the first layer, Inspire, it was really to get the emotional connection out there. And there was this really great video created called The Count that we ran on online video, TV, all of these things. That's so inspirational and powerful. And then we followed that with the ask, because ultimately, we had an ask here, and that was for donations. So we tied that into a really tactical ask of donate $150 for SickKids' 150th birthday.
Okay.
And I think the other thing that's important to note is going into this campaign, there was a lot of donor fatigue. And so the Versus campaign had done an exceptional job, almost too good of a job, because it reached a lot of people and a lot of people donated. And so once you've donated to SickKids, the foundation, there's a feeling that maybe I don't need to donate again. And then you tie that into also the economy that we are up against, where donations are down significantly, just generally speaking.
Right.
It was a really tough place for SickKids Foundation to be, because they rely on those donations to continue to...
what percentage of their OPEX is like derived from donations?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that number off the top of my head, but I think that thing that people don't realize is what the donations go to. Like, yes, we have a publicly funded healthcare system, but those donations go to capital expenditures and
the latest technology,
all of those things that allow them to be leading edge and allow them to fight, you know, a lot of the diseases and even diagnose a lot of the diseases that they're diagnosing.
Sure.
So it's really important for them. And so when you're up against that and you know that that's the reality of what they're trying to face, you know, we had to be really smart and strategic and make every dollar that they're investing into the campaign count.
Right. And let's take a step back, and then we'll take a step forward after that to look at like what you've brought in to tell the story. The step back is, how did you guys, as Cairns O'Neill, come into contact with this client, with SickKids? What was the kind of introduction there?
They RFP'd for a new media agency. So we were in a group of other media agencies and pitched the business and won from there.
Okay. How did those pitches, because again, I'm trying to also learn, and I'm sure our audience would be interested in, we've heard stories on this show so far from kind of creative and marketing agencies on how they win business, right? And it's about, yay, we're going to show you some cool, like fun ideas and bring in some artifacts that's going to, you know, like emotively tie you to what potentially our output would be. But when you deal in data and you deal in strategy and strategic data that can drive outcomes, how do you answer an RFP, and to what degree do you go to invest in architecting solutions to prove a concept?
It starts again with our core values that the agency is based on. So we, again, operate as an agent for our clients, and we talk about that when we go into an RFP position, because we want them to understand that what we're doing and everything that we do is geared towards their outcomes and to be a partner with them. We offer transparency end to end. So that means that every placement, every cost, every fee, every margin that we make, they have full visibility into. We want to, we need to be remunerated for what we do.
Right.
Absolutely. But we want that to be a fair cost and a fair price for our clients. That transparency.
That's pretty huge. Is that unique in the industry?
Yeah.
To say, look, we only take 25%. That's what we work on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It should be a conversation, because that's how you create trust and partnership. And in that, we are also agnostic in our approach, which means that when we talk about our technology, our tech stack, our data providers, all of those things, we don't have these back end deals. We don't only work with one partner. We make sure that we have a full suite available to us to ensure that we can put the best solution on the table for our client.
Sure.
And those are the pieces that when we go into the RFP and into the pitch process, we want to make sure that we highlight and that our clients hear. And that is usually what really interests them in what we have to offer.
Yeah, it's so refreshing, I would assume.
And then on top of that, they meet the people that we have. We have some really great talent. We have people who have been in the business for many, many years across multiple different categories, can bring that experience to the table, can lead them through that. That is just sort of the icing on the cake in terms of what we can offer as well. And for SickKids, they were going through a bit of a digital transformation themselves. They realized that they had to make some changes internally. They were sitting on all of this rich donor data that they wanted to figure out what they could do with it, how they could leverage it, obviously in a privacy compliant way.
Sure.
And so when we came to the table with our offering and showed them that we can lead them through that journey as well, and that we have the resources, both technical and people, to lead and show that thought leadership through that, that's really what piqued their interest and I think had us come together as a client agency agreement.
Nice.
Agreed. I'll add on to that too. They were looking for a partner too, a media partner, not just somebody that would go buy
Not a
ad
service
space
vendor.
for them.
Yeah.
They wanted that strategic leadership, that partnership would advance them in tech and all of those areas.
Okay.
And I think that we were really able to show our capabilities as a partner to them.
Wait, this sounds like also on the flip, the idea was that they were being receptive as well. Their team was receptive to learning through your expertise. Okay, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they are a great partner.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like the only, or not the only, but another case that was brought to this table that was explained in this way was McCann in their work for Canada Help Phone, right? Or Kids Help Phone, that's what it's called, right? Kids Help Phone. And it was really interesting to hear their take on that too, where they said, look, we were partners and we were working hand in hand with these guys to like bring up their capacity as well and learn from them as much as we can, as we not just do discovery, but then do the work. That's exciting. So, okay. So the client basically saw the unique value proposition here, wanted to work with you as partners, chose you, and then you dug in. What does that look like? I mean, especially for this kind of engagement in terms of how deep you go with a kind of a strategic analysis of what information is at your fingertips now.
Yeah, I think coming on board with a new partner, there's definitely a transition period. And because there is so much tactical items that need to be done and things like that, that's a large part of the onboarding, is transitioning things, getting tactically on board. And then sort of simultaneously, we start to work towards a new, with them, we work at like a holistic strategy that's going to look at their whole portfolio of business and how campaigns will run throughout that overall strategy and how that all comes together. So I would say that's sort of, the very first steps, as well as integrating, some of the tech that we talk about and things like that.
In order to also get the insights that you need from history.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I assume that like coming to you, they're not necessarily going to have all their data in a nice clean package.
No, it never works that easily.
Right.
Always disparate sources that we have to pull together and, clean up sometimes, and taxonomies that are all over the place. And yeah, so we work on helping our clients create the structure that's required for us to make data more usable. Also.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. So, at any point you can stop me and we can review some assets. I don't know, again, what you've brought in and how it, would either repeat what you're saying or support it.
Sure. We have the video, the SickKids
Should we
video.
load it up?
Let's load that up. Yeah.
Happy birthday to you.
Are you 1? Are you 2? Are you 3? Are you 4? Are you 5? Are you 6? Are you 7? Are you 8? Are you 9? Are you 10? Are you 11? Are you 12? Are you 13? Are you 14? Are you 15?
16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22,
42? Are you 43? Are you 44? Are you 45? Are you 46? Are you 47? Are you 48? Are you 49? Are you 150?
Yeah, nice. Every year is a gift. So then that kind of is the donation prompt.
Yeah. So that's when we talk about that emotional message that we sent out first to the audience. That's it. And it's so powerful. It's so impactful. And like I mentioned earlier, a really different message than you hear from a lot of charities, right? It's inspiring.
Yeah, because I think a lot of charities they might not be as storied and as this brand, but yeah, often cases that, at least administrators at a lot of charities are faced with this kind of handout culture and the fear of not being able to ask for what they need because the ask feels like it's, we don't want to be ego driven here. And if you please, sir, if you have a tuppence,
We're very polite Canadians too, right?
Yeah.
start to make hard asks. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what sets the stage for the ask. That's what draws you in and creates that emotional connection again to SickKids Foundation, and understanding what they're really fighting for
Right.
is the longevity of these children
Of course.
and how important that is. And by setting that stage and then following up with more of a direct ask, it's a bit of a primer.
Okay, so this creative goes out there. Firstly, I guess you're working in tandem with the creative agency that's been hired by the client.
Yeah. So collaboration through this sort of stage is so important too, and to work closely with creative, because we can get a really good understanding of where the message and creative that they're working on is going to be really impactful in terms of channels and different placements that we can have. So for this layer of the media, we knew that on big screen, so TV, online video, different placements like that, we're going to portray this message the best, and to see that full video. And then we tied it into birthday moments, which is the interesting twist that we had on it. So a great example is we put placements in Cineplex where a lot of birthdays happen. People are there with families celebrating. So there's that extra emotional tie-in. Plus to see that
families are
video.
there. Yeah, you're sitting there with your kids and you're like,
Yeah, people may not realize that a lot of Cineplex hosts birthday parties.
right.
Yeah.
They have party rooms?
Yeah.
I never thought of it,
So such a great tie-in to the audience there. And we talk about like the audience development and things like that. And then how we brought that insight to light even further in what we call the act layer, where we're asking for the donations, is we put it on things like Pinterest when people were searching for birthday party ideas and things like that.
Nice.
So we used, Meta, Pinterest, and moments like that to tie it all together and make the message so relevant to the audience in terms of its placement, in terms of its targeting, and all of those things.
Is there a creative that you brought in to tie to the ask side of this?
Yeah. So I think there's Pinterest, Meta. I added a few things in. Yeah. So there's an example of a digital asset from Pinterest that was there. So
Direct ask, right?
yeah. And I believe this is a Meta placement.
I think that's Instagram.
Yeah. And so in it, you can, if you go back one, there's right in the top is join the fight. So coming back to the message, but then the ask with a $150 donation. And SickKids is really lucky because they have so many partners that will match donation levels and things like that, which makes the message even stronger.
Nice. So you early on set that there was a single ask for the whole campaign to focus on.
Yeah.
And that was really revolutionary for SickKids too, because historically the main goal has been to gain monthly donors. And they never also go into market. We went into market spring, which they typically don't do. Usually they're in market heavy October to December, which is considered a donating time
Because of
period.
Christmas.
Yeah. A lot of charitable and not-for-profits are heavy.
That's interesting. I wouldn't think that from a business standpoint. That's like the worst time to be trying to look for new business.
People try to balance off their consumerism by having an altruistic side to them, which is why I tend to donate then.
Super interesting.
So we went into market with this, with the very different proposition for them during a different time period that's considered a low donating time period with the one-time ask. So donate this once for the $150 and stepping away from gaining those monthly donors.
Previously, what were they prompting people for a recommended contribution amount if it was monthly?
So there isn't a prompt necessarily, but the goal is, they know the long value of having a monthly donor is obviously really strong compared to a one-time donor, right? So that's going to be more valuable for them.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the marketing shifted with this campaign towards this one-time 150, and then obviously the assumption is that if people are more committed, then they're going to figure out ways to give them more money. How did that compare with the historics on whatever they were doing for marketing to look for a subscription?
Yeah. So interestingly, we reached historical donations overall for that time period. And what was really interesting, though, is we didn't go down in new monthly donors that were added to the system. So the campaign just generated more overall. There was more excitement. We got those one-time donors into the system, which is great, but we didn't go down at all.
Didn't lose monthly donors.
Yeah, retention of monthly donors.
Yeah, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is how we executed the strategy as well. So people saw that big video.
Yeah.
In some of the placements, we have data where we can understand and track who saw that video.
Mm-hmm.
And so we leverage that to then retarget them with the direct ask. And even cut downs of that video were placed in different digital channels where we could also then retarget to ask for that direct ask.
Right.
But we can use data and data signals and first party data from SickKids to pull out from that targeting anybody who's, maybe a monthly donor. And we don't want to necessarily over ask. So we're looking for net new people to come into the fold. And so we start to look at the data signals and leverage all of that information to really be specific about how we're segmenting, how we're targeting, some of the sequential messaging that we would put into market around those pieces, to make sure that we're really focused, like I said, on spending the ad spend dollars and making sure that there's a significant return on that investment.
Of course. Do you have the numbers on that? Like if you're getting 100, what's the CAC on this?
There's some information that we are not at liberty to share.
Okay.
But as Kelly said, this was the most successful donation campaign that we did for a one time during that time period, which would be a significant increase on return on investment than they've seen previously.
Yeah. I mean, if you're buying $150 customer plus, you want to make it make sense. So I guess we're in the kind of like post-mortem on this now territory in the story. So outputs, you were saying retention of prior contributors stay the same, and you built on top of that with this new campaign. What did it look like in terms of the story evolving, and were there anecdotes that came out of that? Like whether that, I don't know, I'm feeding the answer here, but whether that is, you had net new contributors that actually came into whatever tier of super donor status, any unexpected outcomes. It's nice to know that you're going to calculate the exact result, but what about that bonus?
Yeah, I mean, I think it highly exceeded what we anticipated it for it to do during that time period. It's also, we have a nice follow-up right now. We're celebrating the birthday throughout the entire year. So we're entering its second wave,
so
which
this
is
was
happening
2025
right now.
Spring?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this just happened. So the second wave is out right now, which we were just talking about, the high donor time period. So excited to bring it back into market and use what we learned from the first time to get people, excited again and target them when people are, like Robin was talking about, like to donate during this time period. And then on your other point, I think what was really interesting about the start of this campaign too was PR did a big job in it too, in terms of creating big events, and then the earned media that came out of that.
Explain more, please.
So
PR did a big job. So what does that mean? Who did what?
Yeah, so PR agency put on an event at Nathan Phillips Square for 150th birthday party. And so their job was really to gain as much earned media as possible. So that's, how many non-paid for impressions can be made into the market. And that, was really successful as well.
Okay. How did that tie back directly to these creative assets and this particular strategy around priming people with the emotion kind of around the birthdays and then the, ask?
Yeah, so I think there's always such a strong place for earned media because it has a really different impact on the consumer.
Of course, yeah.
Because they often feel, and we see this with influencers too, in a lot of ways, they feel like it's someone they know or a friend reaching out to them with a message, versus having a paid placement in the market. And, you know, both things really need to work well together. And when they do work well together, you know, a consumer might see the emotional message, but then hear about it from someone else or see an article about it somewhere, which you know, would be a place of earned media. And that's the thing that, you know, ultimately makes them convert from there. Can be a number of these things, but it works really well tandemly.
Yeah, the narrative is always connected and the story is always connected, but the messaging that they can put out in a PR through a PR lens is going to be slightly different. So that's when they will talk about some of the life-saving things that the dollars that they're trying to raise are going to.
Okay.
And they can tell a deeper story in that PR messaging. And they bring, you know, the media outlets into that, who then continue that narrative through their channels, which is great. So it just creates greater awareness around what the message is and what the impact of SickKids Foundation can be.
And create that storytelling, you know, more in-depth storytelling around it.
What about earned media about this whole strategy? Like, have you guys, this story that we're talking about now, which I think is quite interesting, using digital advertising to target people around a specific campaign prompt for a charity, is that itself, that story itself, has that gotten any media attention?
I don't know that it has gotten any media attention at this stage, but as Kelly said, we're going into phase 2. So
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's super interesting. And was this the first time that the agency took this approach with a charity?
I'm not sure specifically, but what I will say is that's the approach that we use to all of our clients, right? When we look at our process and how we go to market with things, we want to do more than just, you know, put an ad out there, right? We want to find that connection to the audience. And that's what we do through the Awaken process that Robin talked about, right? Is really dive in and say, how can the ad that we're putting there make a connection with the audience and make them have an action, whether it's be inspired, whether it's donate, whether it's buy a product,
Right.
whether it's, you know, to create an action for them. And that's really what we do overall. So, you know, SickKids is a great example about how we do that, but we really do that for all of our clients for all the campaigns that we work on.
in collaboration with the creative agency, we want to understand, as Kelly said, how we can make the campaign as most impactful as possible.
Sure.
Right? So every campaign we do is bespoke. The approach to it is similar. That's why we created a system, Awaken. We want to make sure, because that's what's going to get us those exceptional results. And then from those outcomes and those results that we're measuring, we're constantly looking back and trying to optimize. So as we go through second phase of this, we're looking at all of these things really worked well in terms of what we did previously, but there's going to be one or two things that maybe didn't perform as well as we wanted them to. So
Right.
how do we optimize that? Do they still have a place in the plan? Do we, you know, get rid of
targeting
them?
a bit
Do
different, yeah.
target something differently? Like, what can we do? What can we learn from what we already did that's going to make it better as we go forward?
Are there any of those lessons that you can share? Like in terms of particular channels that, you know, you found primed customers at the right point? I know the case you pulled out a couple examples. Pinterest was an interesting
Yeah,
one for
I
me.
don't think that there's anything in particular around a specific channel that we could share, but I can tell you that not every audience segment that we had executed against performed where we would have wanted it to perform.
Okay.
But that means that, you know, moving forward, we might eliminate that segment out, and we might look to revamp it or figure out maybe that wasn't, you know, maybe the segment wasn't built how we needed it. Maybe we need to add some more data sets into that to make it do what we want it to do.
On a taking a step back level, do you find that geolocation targeting has a level of complexity or a limit of functionality when you're trying to bring a campaign like this to a city in Toronto specifically and local residents?
definitely there's going to be limitations dependent on the platforms that you're trying to use. I would also say that for this campaign in particular, it wasn't just the GTA. We work sort of in the Southern Ontario space for SickKids because they service all of Ontario as the children's hospital that they are.
Oh yeah, people get flown in from even out of province sometimes,
Yes,
right?
exactly. But geolocation has limitations just based on, you're starting to segment sometimes too small. The data set needs to have statistical significance to be able to leverage it. So yes, there's always going to be some nuance in there, but we have done really well in finding ways around that and making sure that we're building up and ensuring that the audience size and the segments are what they need to be in terms of size to use them.
It's a really interesting topic though, because outside of SickKids, other clients that we work on nationally, we're such a big country that has so many cultural differences, right? And so when you think about targeting, what we're doing in Quebec is going to be really different than what we're doing in different parts of the country, even East Coast, West Coast. And there's so many different nuances. But I would even say even in the GTA, looking at cultural differences, because people are going to connect with things differently based on who they are. That's part of it, right? And finding those nuances. So it's geo-based because there's nuances in there, but also beyond that, within different geos, what do those different audiences look like is going to make a big impact.
Right. And definition to that story comes from purchasing relevant descriptors, right? Identifiers in the data set.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. Like taking a 10,000 foot view of this, it's very, very interesting that online behavior is determined primarily by transactional volume, right? And then everyone's a consumer. And
to some extent, yes.
You have to be aware of that as someone who wants to advertise something,
And you can go down a lot of rabbit holes on that kind of data and refresh rates and, all of that. So deterministic signals versus probabilistic signals, it's a very complex space, which is why there's not one silver bullet. And it's important when you're thinking about those things that you're looking at a cross section of information and a cross section of signals.
And that's where our teams, do a really great job too, because the tech and the data and all of the information can only take you so far, but really it takes people that have a really great understanding of brands and outcomes and what they do in terms of advertising to look through that and put that, really great perspective on it, on how to be effective that way.
Nice. And then coming back to this relationship with SickKids, you're going through, you said, the fall season push for the campaign. But how does it even work? When you win the RFP, what's the relationship like in terms of tenure and the commitment to the relationship?
Yeah, so we have an ongoing.
If you don't want to speak to it, that's fine. But is it like someone signs for 5 years?
I mean, every contract is different, and we can't go into the details of the contract that we have. But it is a long-term relationship agreement that we hope they want to continue for many, many, many years.
Yeah, of course.
As long as we can still provide the value and the leadership that they are looking for. That's the goal. That's the goal with every client that we work with in service. Though, we want those relationships to be partners. We want them to be partners of ours, and that means going into it with a long-term view. And everything that we do is long-term view. What are we doing to lead through that? What are we doing to make sure that we're achieving your long-term objectives? Obviously, there's short-term goals that we have to hit, and we're always looking to do that as well. But yeah, long-term is what we're looking for with clients.
And brands want to build, every brand wants long-term sustainability, long-term growth. And if you look at it in a really short-term way, you won't ever see the results of that. And that includes what you're doing with your agency partners as well, right? There has to be a vision for how that's all going. What you're doing today is going to impact what happens 5 years from now.
Nice. It was a pleasure breaking this down a little bit and getting an introduction to Cairns O'Neill. Yeah. Thanks for taking time to join us today for this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.